raise your hand using the reactions feature at the bottom. Brian, we'll go ahead and start with Wayne Box Miller. Go ahead, Wayne.
Thank you. Hey, Coach, congratulations. How are you?
Doing great. How are you? Thanks.
Oh, yeah. Coach, you come from a football family, but yet you're carving out your own success and your own legacy. I wanted to ask you what piece of advice your father has given you that's meant the most, especially going through this successful season?
It's a good question. Probably the one thing he told me a long time ago was that you worry about the job that you have and doing the best job you can where you're at. And whatever your job is, be the best at it. And don't worry about the next job or where you want to be in 5 years. Just do the best job you can do wherever you're at, and do that to the best of your ability. And I think that I've tried to live by that mantra for my coaching career and not worry about anything other than what I can control, and do the job that I can do at the very top level that I'm able to do it. So try to just focus on those types of things and let the rest of those things take care of themselves. And certainly my dad's been a huge influence on me, personally and professionally. He's my mentor and kind of in all facets. So there's probably a long list there, Wayne, that I could get to you, but that one probably is one of the most important ones.
What was the conversation like after the Super Bowl, clinching the spot in the Super Bowl? Did you guys have a chance to talk?
Yeah, briefly. He just said he's proud and excited for me, and congratulations. And it's a really cool moment. And you have to enjoy those moments. They're hard to get to. And he was really, really excited for us and for some of the guys he's got relationships with on the staff. Just happy and excited that things have worked out the way they have this year.
Thank you.
Yep.
Everyone, looks like we have a lot of questions, so I'd like to ask, please, to limit your questions to just one. We'll go next to Kelsey Conway. Kelsey.
Hey, Brian. Just wanted to ask you about this. Get it out of the way. Your relationship with Matthew Stafford, going back to your days in Detroit. Can you tell us a little bit about how that relationship developed, what you think about Matthew Stafford, and just the opportunity to go up against him in this Super Bowl matchup?
Sure. I really enjoyed working with Matthew. He was a lot of fun to be around, to work with, to coach. He's a great player. I'm not surprised at all that we're seeing him in this game in 2 weeks. He was really, really a fine player for the 2 years I was there. He was excellent before I got there, and he's been excellent since. So I think he's really cemented himself as one of the premier quarterbacks in the NFL. He's a phenomenal worker. He's extremely intelligent, and he's a great human being on top of it. If you look at all the things that he's done for the city of Detroit when he was there, and he's phenomenal. So I got nothing but the utmost respect for Matthew. I have a good relationship with him. I saw him at the Hall of Fame induction when he was there for Calvin this summer. And it's always good to see him. I love the guy. I think he's one of the toughest competitors out there, and we got our hands full with that offense. They're really good with him at the trigger. So looking forward to playing against him and competing against him, but he's a warrior, man. He's as good as they come.
Mike Petraglia.
Thanks, Zach. Hey, Brian, how you doing?
Doing great, Mike.
I wanted to ask you about CJ Uzomah, what he has meant to the offense this year and how much of a challenge it would be if he were not able to go in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, highly underrated part of our offense this year. He's doesn't quite get the accolades and recognition that our receiving core does, but he certainly deserves probably just as much because of what he's asked to do. He's a Swiss Army knife in the sense that he can get in there and block. He's physical. He's tough. He catches balls. He breaks tackles. He's been a big part of our underneath passing game, and he's made a bunch of huge plays for us, catching balls underneath and taking 6-yard completions for 10, 12, 15 yards. And then in the run game and the play action game, he's a big part of all that. So, yeah, certainly not having CJ in 2 weeks is something that we'll have to work around, and guys are going to have to step up with Drew and Mitch. But yeah, he means the world to our offense, the world to our team as a leader. You guys all see that. His personality is infectious. His leadership skills are outstanding, and our guys love him. And so to not have him with us would be something that would be detrimental to us to some degree. Guys will step up and fill the role, but CJ is a big part of what we do, and hopefully we'll potentially get him back. I'm not sure. That's for Zach to answer, but we love him. He's a huge part of what we do, and we could definitely use him.
Next up is Jeff Hobson.
Thank you, Zach. Coach, what are the pitfalls of going with two guards? Would you prefer to play with one right guard? Would you prefer that? What did you get out of them? And it seemed like the offensive line very maligned, seemed to kind of take over the game in the last 5 minutes of OT there.
Yeah, they finished the game well, and rotating those guards was something we had planned on going into the game. Just, two young players that played a lot of football for us over the course of the season. We were facing a good interior front in Kansas City and trying to see if that could help us handle those guys a little bit. They both have different skill sets that were good for us in that game. Both guys made good plays and bad plays, like every game goes for those guys up front. It's not like, you're ever expecting perfection, but they played admirably. We'll see what we're going to do moving forward, but those two guys did a good job, and we were planning on rotating them through the course of that game, letting them get some play time and some run and seeing how they would do. But they played well against Kansas City. Chris Jones was a hard player to block. We're going to arguably have to block the best player in football in a couple of weeks here. And Aaron Donald, he's there's really no words to describe how good he is. But he's, we got our hands full.
Charlie Goldsmith, you're next.
You and the Rams, one similarity is how much you've invested in wide receivers you've added or paid wide receivers every chance you got. Why is that such a priority when you've built this team?
Everyone's got different philosophies on how to build a team and how to run an offense. We try to be multiple to some degree. We do play with 2 tight ends and 3 tight ends at times. We don't major in it. We don't have a fullback, and we use our tight ends in a little bit of a hybrid role. But for the most part, we're a 3 wide receiver offense. And if you have 3 wide receivers that people have to cover, it's going to be hard for them. And our biggest philosophy is you want guys that can score touchdowns because you got to score points to win in today's NFL. The quarterbacks have to have targets to throw to, guys that can win and separate on all levels of the defense. And we got 3 guys that can do that. And so obviously do the Rams. They got a great crew as well. But that's just part of what I think football is today in the NFL. The passing game is a huge part of it. You have to be good in the passing game to score points. Use the run game to balance it out. But really, when it comes down to having to throw the ball and third down and in the red zone, you got to have guys that can go win. And the more of those you have that can score touchdowns, the better off you're going to be.
Next question, Richard Skinner.
Yeah, Brian, I want to ask you about Joe's accuracy and not just the raw completion percentage, but ball placement, like the throw to Jamar at the end of the Tennessee game, et cetera. How much of that is a differentiator maybe between good quarterbacks and great quarterbacks as much as having that big cannon of an arm?
I think it's the most important factor of playing quarterback in the NFL. Decision-making, timing, and accuracy are the 3 things that can easily supplant the ability to throw the ball really far and really hard. And Joe's got an uncanny ability to place the ball in great spots. Throws a very catchable ball. It's very accurate. He knows how to layer the ball, how to take speed off it, how to put speed on it. But the ball is always going to be exactly where he wants it. I would say more often than anybody, most guys in the NFL, to be honest. I think that his accuracy is one of his strengths. And then he also knows how to play on time too. And so when you play on time and you throw accurately, you're going to be tough to stop for a defense. When balls aren't in position to get played. He puts the ball away from defenders' reach, out of their grasp, in places they can't defend it, and he does an exceptional job of doing that. So to me, if the quarterback is really accurate, a lot of the times it outweighs their ability to throw the ball far or hard, and Joe's exceptional. His ball placement is as good as anybody's in football.
Bill Rabinowitz, you're next. Bill.
Hi, Brian. I'm up in Columbus. I'm going to ask you a Buckeye question. I know it hasn't always been pretty with Isaiah Prince, but how would you assess the way he's played and how important has he been to what you guys have done?
Isaiah's done a really fine job stepping in. Obviously he was the swing tackle for us early in the season when Riley Reif was playing, and he's had to step in and play a huge role for us down the stretch and into the playoffs. And he's done a very fine job. He's got good length and good athletic ability. He's done a nice job in pass protection. He has to play against some pretty good players, and he's given up some sacks like all linemen do. But what he's done for us and how he's played, he's really stepped up and really made a lot of things go when, there's times when you lose a starting tackle and you're in a really bad spot. And we felt like we lost our starting tackle, and we really weren't in that bad of a spot because we had a lot of faith in Isaiah's ability to go play for us. And I'm proud of the way he's played. I'm happy that he's on our team, and he's done a very nice job for us, helping us get to this spot.
Thank you, Brian.
Yep.
Next, we're going to go to Paul Doherty. Paul, go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks, Brian, and congratulations. How does having a kicker like Evan with his range and accuracy influence the way you and Zach call a game? And do opponents have to account for that defensively?
I think so. I think we definitely factor it in, especially when we're in situations where we need to get back into field goal range for points. To give you an example, if you're in a third and 10 on the 40, and third and 10 is a little bit harder to convert. As long as you don't take a sack and put yourself with a decent gain, you put yourself in scoring range. And so sometimes you factor that in, whether it's a 2-down area or just a 3rd down, and we're going to kick the field goal, but we're trying to get 5 more to be in range, as opposed to sometimes potentially trying to get for more yards for a 1st down or risk holding the ball to take a sack. Those are things we all factor in. But he's such a weapon because he can hit from so far out that it allows us to be in scoring range in a lot of different ways. And you got a lot of confidence that he's going to be able to hit it. For defenses, they play some of those 3rd down and longers in that fringe area, playing like 3rd and short. You heard Steve Spagnuolo say in that first game that he played that 3rd and 27, like 3rd and 6, because he was figuring we were just trying to get ourselves in range to hit a field goal. So I think defenses do have to consider it as part of where they're at and how they want to attack that 3rd down situation and those fringe field goal ranges and on that distance where Evans really can be dynamic from, and not everybody is. So it's certainly a weapon for us. It does affect the way both sides call the game, I think, in certain situations. Not all the time, not at every spot in the game, but there is moments where it does factor into that.
Next up is James Rapine. James. Hey,
Brian. Congratulations. As far as texts and stuff, I'm sure your phone blew up. But a specific question here, because I know I saw a lot of it and I wasn't watching the broadcast, but how many people took a screen grab of the broadcast of you in the coach's booth and sent that to you?
Yeah, quite a few. It was definitely a favorite of amongst my friends and family that text me, and it's a moment of it's a pure joy. Did you have something want to follow up with that? I'll just finish.
Yeah, exactly that. What was going through your mind in that moment?
You work so hard to get into these moments, and they're so rare in your career. I've been really fortunate to be a part of a bunch of them, and this has been a really fun season. But you put all the work in during the week, and you go through the stresses of a game, and it's probably the purest form of emotion is that first 30 seconds after a game-winning play like that. And we're not down on the field, so we don't get to go jumping up and down, running on the field and all that. We're just kind of stuck in a box and got chairs all around our feet, and our wires are all connected. It's hard to celebrate the same way, but I do my best. I don't take those moments for granted, and those are always going to be emotional moments. There are always going to be moments that require a celebration, if you will. And I know that Louis and I, who sits next to me, Louis Chofi, who's a defensive assistant, he sits next to me. I think we've missed probably like 75 high fives over the course of the year. We're really bad at it. We'll get better. But it's just fun. It's those moments that you coach football for, and you're part of competitive sports, and it's just an emotional outburst. And I always stick this little camera in front of me, and so at the end of it, I just kind of screamed at it, just because, and I guess that got caught on the broadcast. So it was fun. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed people sending me the pictures and the comments and all that. But it's an emotional game. It's fun to celebrate, and they happen to catch it on camera.
Everyone,
Thanks.
We have time for just a couple more questions. We're going next to Dave Lapham. Dave.
Coach, everybody's got players that present problems. Aaron Donald, like you said, Von Miller, Jalen Ramsey. I mean, they've got players. Schematically, did they do things similarly to anybody that you played this season that you can reference to and draw from, or are they very, very different in their own right?
Their players are very different in their own right. They got great players at all levels of the defense. Really, really talented. Aaron Donald is probably the best defensive player in football for like the last 5 years. Jalen Ramsey is probably considered the top at his position. I was with Von Miller in Denver. I've seen what he can do, and he's played really well for him over the playoffs. So the talent alone, we have our hands full. They're really, really good football team. They play well together. Schematically, it's really Raheem's Morris calling the defense, but that scheme is what Brandon Staley brought with him when he first got there 2 years ago. So it's in the Fangio system, Staley system, multiple fronts, multiple coverages, a lot of try to keep it in front, limit your explosives type of defense. They do a great job. They got all kinds of different looks you got to prepare for. But the main thing is you got to handle the talent first before you even worry about the scheme, and they're extremely talented.
Next question is Dan Horde.
Hey, Brian, the Trent Taylor 2-point conversion decision was really interesting considering how little he's played on offense this year. I think you were 1 for 5 on 2-point conversions prior to that. Can you describe when you thought, all right, maybe this is the guy that can get us those 2 yards when we need it?
Yeah, Trent's played a lot of football in the NFL, and he played quite a bit early in his career. He was a really dynamic player at Louisiana Tech coming out. I think he had like 100+ catches every year he was there. So he's proven it. He's a proven player. There's not much that we didn't know about him. And so we found a type of play and a type of route that we felt like he ran really, really well. He's got the right kind of quickness and setup, and we felt like it was just a great fit for that play and how we were trying to attack that coverage. And we worked on it for about 2-3 weeks now, kind of bringing it back from, it's a very specific route for a guy like him, and he fit it perfect. And I think that's what's great about our team is we have a lot of guys that do things that are limited roles, but those roles they do really well. And I think that's a sign of a good team and a team that's got guys that have bought in. Is that they take whatever role they have and they execute it at a really high level. And Trent did a phenomenal job of setting the route inside and breaking it back out away from the leverage of the defender, and it was really well done. And it looked good all week. The last 2 weeks in practice, it looked great, and it just happened to be a perfect time to call it. We felt great about the call and that Trent would do his job there, and he did. And it's a testament to Trent and Joe getting that trust down, because again, Joe doesn't throw a ton of balls to Trent, but it was really well done on both those guys' part.
Okay, everyone, this will be our last question today for Brian, and it goes to Laurel Failer. Laurel.
Thank you. Congratulations, Brian.
Thank you.
I was going to go back to that right guard spot with Jackson Carman. How would you describe just his progress over the year and maybe some of the ups and downs that he's gone through?
It's been a traditional rookie arc to me. For a guy that really changed positions when he got to the league. He was a tackle in college. He projected for us as a guard, and so he came in as a guard, and he's had a learning curve. There's a maturation process that goes on, particularly for young players. I think it's really, really difficult to play offensive line in the NFL. And that's to see young players come in and succeed right away is not something that happens often. It's not that it doesn't happen, but it's difficult because now you're working in concert with a bunch of other guys. It's a lot easier for a receiver to come in and play well, or quarterbacks come in and play well, but they got to work together with those guys, and it takes reps and investment. And I think over the course of the season, he's gotten much better. He shows all the traits that we think are going to make him a good player. He's powerful. He's athletic. And he's settled in. He started to trust technique more, because there's so much technique that's involved in playing up front, probably more than any other position. And you have to be exact with it. Otherwise you get beat, because these guys are so good on the other side. So all the things that Jackson has done, he's gotten better. He's matured. He's grown. Everything he's done has been improved every time he gets out there and plays. And the consistency part has picked up. Young players tend to be inconsistent. He's had moments of that, and I think his consistency has definitely flattened out, if you will. He's become more consistent, done things more the right way more often, and so really, really pleased with the way he's played and where his future projects as well. So, we got big expectations for him, and he's got to meet those.
Brian, that's all the time we have. We appreciate it. Thanks for your time today.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Hello, Lou. How are you today?
How are we doing, everybody? Doing great.
Okay, we'll start off with questions. First question goes to Wayne Box Miller. Wayne?
Hey, thanks, Coach. Congratulations to you.
Appreciate it.
Coach, from the time you got in the game, it's gone from more of a run emphasis game to maybe pass emphasis. As a coordinator, what's the most distinctive difference in how you plan for offenses these days?
Well, I think each game is different. You're going to use different strategies in each game. Some games, as you mentioned, will be more, heavily slanted towards run game or pass game based on what team you're playing. So, we just, you mix it up, and based on what the offense does well, try to keep them, try to make them play left-handed as best you can. And that's always a challenge these days with all the great offenses and quarterbacks that we end up playing.
Thank you.
Next question goes to Paul Daner. Paul?
Hey, Lou. Congratulations.
Thanks, Paul.
I want to go back to free agency real quick, if you don't mind. when you were rebuilding this defense, what do you think was the most critical part of your work with the personnel department, kind of getting that so right? And how much did having so much of a voice in that process kind of help you coach it so quickly into what it has been?
Well, I just think, I've mentioned this before, it's a great collaborative effort by a lot of people, Duke and his crew upstairs and, the personnel department and the coaches. And when you can work together, that you're not always going to agree, and that's a good thing on players. It's a very subjective business when it comes to player evaluation. So, but we were in line on all these guys, and we were able to do a good job and get the guys we wanted, and we felt like we added players that can do multiple things, and it just makes it a little bit easier when you get a guy that's hey, this is the one thing he can do, and that's all he can do. We've got some guys that could do a bunch of different things, and we've tried to show that along the way this year.
Everyone, if you could please limit your questions to just one. We have quite a few questions in the queue here. We're going next to Mitch Stacy. Mitch.
Hey, Lou. How important is it for you guys to go out there a little bit early and get some practice done in good weather, playing inside?
Yeah, I think that'll be important that we do it, but it's always easy to transition from not so great weather to good weather. Doesn't take long to figure that part out, and the guys will get accustomed to that quick. So I think it'll be good to get the kind of lay of the land, but when the weather's good like that, that's an easier transition to going to play in 8, 9, 10 degrees or something like that. That makes it very difficult.
Next up is Charlotte Wilder. Charlotte.
Thanks, Zach. Hey, Lou. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about what the youth of this team, how that contributes to the mentality. It's almost like there's this feeling of being young enough to not quite know the disappointment that can come from making it so far. And I wondered if you see that reflected in the way these guys play or interact with each other.
Well, I think we got a good mix. I think we've got a good mix of some veteran guys that can kind of tell. As a matter of fact, we did a little something in the defensive unit meeting last week, and Coach Duffner, one of our elder statesmen on the staff, he's been coaching in the NFL for 25 years, and this past weekend was his first conference championship. So we tried to get across how precious this stuff is, and that while this is the goal for every team every year, it doesn't happen that way. So to make the most of our opportunities, and while the young guys, may not sink into them, that we've got the veteran guys that are players and coaches alike, trying to make them understand how important and how precious this is, and to take full advantage of it.
Next up is Paul Doherty. Paul.
Thank you, and congrats, Lou. Lou, if you're the defensive coordinator for a team that's playing the Bengals, how do you adjust your defensive calls to account for the range and accuracy of Evan McPherson?
Well, I mean, those are kind of situational deals, kind of at the end of the half, end of game, where we always, Darrin Simmons does a great job communicating to me, all right, hey, this guy's, if they get to the 35, they're gonna try it, or this guy's at the 37, or this guy's at the 30, whatever it may be. So, with Evan, with some of the great kickers that we have to play against, it just makes it that more difficult, and it forces your hand a little bit on as a defense. Where, all right, if they get to the 40, now you got to start planning on trying to get some negative yardage plays and knocking them back. So it comes into play, and Evan puts a lot of stress on people again in those situational deals, especially at the end of the half and the end of the game, where if they get inside the 35, you pretty much, it's over. So it's definitely a huge piece to the puzzle.
Next up is Kelsey Conway. Kelsey.
Hey, Lou, I wanted to ask you about Sam Hubbard. Obviously, when the Bengals drafted him, you weren't here. Did you know about Sam? I know you were just coaching defensive backs, but did you have any knowledge of him and what he was doing at Ohio State? And can you just kind of put into perspective how much Sam Hubbard has meant to this defense as you've kind of built it to where it is right now?
Yeah. So I was aware of him, as we evaluate tape, you're always watching Ohio State guys. They've always got guys coming out, and I think he was number 6 at Ohio State, if I'm not mistaken. And as I watching the DBs and just always making notes of other good players along the way. So he stood out to me on tape in college, even though I didn't necessarily evaluate him. And when we got here, we just knew that we could build around him because of everything that he's made of. And that was on display on Sunday. I mean, in the most critical point of the most critical game, he's one of the guys that rose up. And let me tell you, those D linemen had an unbelievable job of trying to contain this guy this past weekend. And that is not an easy job. And he was running them ragged a little bit. And they just never relented, none of them. And you could tell just the inner fortitude of those guys up front, especially led by Sam, that they weren't going to give up no matter what. And, you can win a lot of games with guys like him.
Next up is Bill Rabinowitz. Bill.
Hi, Lou. I'm up in Columbus where a lot of Ohio State fans are quite excited about the impact the Buckeyes have made. You were just asked about Sam. Also with Eli and Vaughn, I mean, just their impact, whether you want to address them individually or as a group, how vital have they been to your success?
Yeah, huge. I mean, you again, just reference Sam, and, Vaughn is, as I've said since the day Vaughn got here, he's the ultimate pro. He does everything the right way. Nobody's going to be more prepared than him. He's in here every morning at 6 a.m. lifting, watching tape. He is a true gym rat. And, and I knew when I got to the Giants, we had Eli for a little bit. And, I liked him coming out of college. And I thought that, the talent was there for him to be a good player in this league, and didn't want to give up on him. And that's why we gave him a chance this year. And he's made the most of his opportunity.
Thank you.
Next up is Mike Petraglia.
Hey, Lou, congratulations again.
Thanks, Mike.
Wanted to ask you kind of along the lines of Kelsey's question about not only the defensive line, but a lot of defensive players talk about keeping their eyes right. Had to be a lot of that on Sunday in the second half, especially on the play, third down, and Patrick Mahomes is running all over the place. What is going through your mind when you see a play like that develop?
My heart starts beating a little quicker. But it's just the coverages that we were in, there was a very change of things, whether it be man or zone, but the stress was on the D line, chasing the guy, and then once he got out of the pocket, then it goes right back to the back end guys to plaster their receivers. And so it's a collective effort, and it worked out for us. Got him to hold the ball some, and the guys in the back end did a great job covering, and eventually we tracked him down and got him on the ground at the most critical point in the game.
Next up is Aditi Kinkhabwala. Aditi.
Hey, Lou. When you're talking about your defense and how resilient it is, you have successfully, at halftime in the second half, made changes, made adjustments. Why is that possible? What is the process of that? How can you so quickly adjust? And why are your guys so good at making whatever changes or adjustments you do make?
Yeah, I think it's, again, I'll go back. It's a collective effort. As we talk about things on the sideline during the game, in the first half, hey, these are the things we have to do better. Our guys, I think, just settle into the game. Sometimes it takes them a little bit longer to do that. But, I knew at halftime we were locked in. We talked about, changing up a couple things, even towards the end of the first half. But they understand the scheme. They understand it so well. So they're able to digest all the information that we're giving them in a short amount of time. It's not like it's something totally new. Hey, guys, we're going to do this now. And they're like, okay, no problem. And, the core of what we did was still the same. It's just we executed better.
Next up is Gary Miller. Go ahead, Gary.
Thanks, Zach. Lou, congratulations. Aditi kind of touched on it, but can you take us through that process? How critical is the halftime? You don't really have much time. What's the most essential thing that you guys do to change up Obviously, the two halves are very different for them.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think momentum has a lot to do with that. So we started, that last play was huge, of the first half. We get the stop there. They don't get any points. So that gives us an automatic boost. We get into the locker room. We meet as a coaching staff briefly. We address the group with runs and pass issues. Then I talk to the group, and then the guys go to their separate individual coaches. It's as fast as that. So we have a pretty good plan of, hey, we're going to talk about this at halftime while the offense is out there. So we have it all listed. The assistants do a great job with that. And, we did a good job. Coaches did a great job communicating what we wanted to adjust and going forward. But, I just think, again, it all falls back on the players and how they, once they got that first, because I knew how important that stop would be when they got the ball first. We had to make them punt, and we did. And I just think we just gained more confidence, and it kind of snowballed, and we were able to make some plays. And when you get takeaways like that, I don't care who you're playing, it hurts them, and that showed on Sunday.
Dan Horde, go ahead.
Congrats, Lou. I know you're reluctant to toot your own horn, but in 2 games against the Chiefs, they had the ball 10 times in the second halves combined and did not score a touchdown, which is pretty much unheard of against Mahomes. Can you describe specifically the satisfaction of you and your staff and the players pulling off that feat against that team?
They're great. I think everybody would acknowledge that. And it's so hard, to manage all of their weapons. And he's such a great quarterback, and Coach Reed does such a great job, calling the game with Coach Bieniemy. So I think, listen, it was a huge challenge. That's why we're in this business as coaches and players. And so, yeah, I'd be lying if I said we didn't take satisfaction in it. But it happened to go our way. And I'm just proud of the way the guys hung in there. They didn't flinch. I knew at halftime we were going to be fine, because when I looked in their eyes, there was nobody that was panicking. And I just knew we'd settle in and play better in the second half.
Marissa Contepelli.
Hey, Lou. I want to go back to overtime when Von Bell had that key interception. It seemed like initially Jesse, after he punched it, didn't realize, that the ball fell to Von. Just kind of take me through what you were seeing as the play was unfolding, and, what did you say to Von and Jesse after the play?
Yeah, so I said this to somebody earlier. I didn't see it because it was I couldn't see through the D-line and the linebackers from my vantage point. So when that happens, I generally just judge it by the roar of the crowd. If there's no roar, I know it's incomplete. If they're cheering like crazy, then I know that they got a big play. And so it wasn't until the replay showed up on the board that I saw exactly what happened. But, that's a scheme coverage that we had in for them. Vaughn, it starts with Mike Hilton on that play. Mike delivered the route to Vaughn, and then Vaughn was going to be underneath, and Jesse was going to be over the top. And they played it great. And those are very difficult plays for DBs, because you got to be exact. You can't interfere. And Jesse did a great job getting his hand in there, and Vaughn was in the right place at the right time and took advantage of the play.
Next up is Steve Serby. Go ahead, Steve.
Hi, Lou. Congratulations. Could you talk about your favorite memories watching the New York Football Giants and your favorite players, how often you went to Giant Stadium, and what was it like interviewing for the Giants head coaching job?
Yeah, Steve, I had a feeling that what the questions were going to be like from you, having read you all these years growing up. But, yeah, it was unbelievable. It was a great experience. Talking about the interview, that was my hometown team, my hometown everything when I was growing up. Everything lived around Sundays, rooting for them. And, just the whole Lawrence Taylor, Phil Simms, that whole crew, Jesse Armsteads of the world. I've been going there since I was 8 years old, sitting in I think it was section 325 with my uncle, freezing my butt off, watching like Doug Coder run the ball and getting our butts kicked, But we persevered like a lot of Giant fans back then, and to go to those Super Bowls later on was awesome as still a fan back then, and then again to be able to talk to Mr. Mara and Mr. Tisch about the job was was great experience for me.
Thank you.
Next up is Dave Lapham. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, Coach, we talked about, Sam Hubbard and his impact. He's such a versatile player. He lined up at edge to rush the passer, middle linebacker as a spy and pressure people. And you have a lot of defensive players that have that position versatility. You zone blitz with Trey Hendrickson. I mean, it can go on and on. When you're evaluating guys, is that a tiebreaker in the evaluation process? Is it a prerequisite? They have to have position versatility to gain your guys' interest as an organization. How does that flush out?
I mean, you're always looking for the best players. And then the more that you can add to their plate, the more attractive they become, whether it be a draft pick or a guy in free agency. They've got to be able to do their job first and do it at a high level. And oh, by the way, if they bring extra things that they can do, again, they just become somebody that you really, really want to get your hands on. So we were fortunate enough to get the guys we got, and they all brought something extra, which has really helped us this year on defense.
Everyone, I apologize for those of you that have questions, but we have time for only one more, and that's going to be Charlie Goldsmith. Go ahead, Charlie.
You were talking about the game plan in the second half last week. How important was Logan Wilson in that, and what is it about his skill set that allowed him to do so much in that game plan?
Logan's a versatile guy, kind of like Lap just asked. He can do a number of different things. He runs the ship. I talked to him on the headset, and he communicates everything we do, and gets everybody lined up, and and then he brings such a great skill set to the position. He's 240 something pounds, and can run and hit and can cover. So the best is yet to come still for him. I believe he's had a heck of a year, and he's bounced back with his injury and been able to give us some great games down the stretch here.
Lou, thanks so much for your time, and good luck to you in your preparations for the Super Bowl.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Hi, Darrin. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. We're doing well.
Excellent.
Darrin, we're going to start first question with Wayne Miller. Go ahead, Wayne.
Thank you, Coach. Congratulations to you.
Thanks, Box. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Coach, talk about the punt coverage team. A lot of people talk about Evan, obviously, and rightfully so, but your punt coverage team has really done well for you.
Yeah, I thought we've been solid. I think it was highlighted probably by the plays that they made in the Tennessee game. Trey Flowers has stepped into a role as a gunner for us and really picked up, after we lost Brandon Wilson. We've been without Stanley Morgan for a couple of games, dealing with a little injury. He's been our most productive gunner. But we've been without him, and in his absence, we plugged Mike Thomas in there, the receiver Mike Thomas, and he's done well. So we've had a variety of guys step up into those roles and do the things we're asking them to do and do them at a pretty high level. And we're going to need them to continue that.
Next up is Joe Reedy. Joe.
Thanks, Zach. Semi, congratulations.
They let anybody on here?
Hey, just 19 years with this franchise as an assistant, been a long, winding road. What's it been like for you just on this run and, ending the win drought, first road win, and just getting to take all of it in?
Well, it's exactly as you can imagine it would be. It's been pretty special. It has been a long road, and I think that makes me relish this chance and relish this spot even more. To see the ups and downs that this team and this organization has gone through from starting back in 2003 for me and the playoff games we've had, the ups and downs we've had, but to get to be in this spot right here is pretty special. And I think everybody feels it, that this whole city feels it. It's been pretty electric. It's been pretty magnetic. And, I'm very elated to be a part of it, really, quite honestly.
Thanks, Darrin. Congrats.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. Good talking with you.
Everyone, we do have a lot of questions for Darrin, so please limit yourselves to one question. Next up is Zach Martin, not from the Dallas Cowboys, but from Wichita. Zach?
Hey, Coach. Yeah, I'm with KSN News 3, the NBC affiliate in Wichita, Kansas. Your hometown, Elkhart. They're going pretty crazy over you guys being able to make the Super Bowl. I assume people from your hometown have reached out. Kind of what have they kind of been reaching out to you about, and just kind of what's that been an experience like?
Well, it's been pretty cool. It's been really cool, Zach, to be honest with you. It obviously being able to go back and play in Kansas City was a big deal for me. There's a lot of Chiefs fans out there in Southwest Kansas. They come out of the woodworks, but yet they were still in support of us too. Me being from there, me being from a small town, I think that kind of overtook a lot. But it's been really neat. That whole town has been behind us. I haven't had a chance to. There's been a ton of people reach out to me. I haven't had a chance to get back to all of them yet, but it's been unbelievable. The outpouring of support and really for my whole family. It's been a pretty special time.
We're going to go from Wichita, Kansas to London. Charles Walford, go ahead.
Hi, Coach. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Just wanted a quick question about Evan McPherson. Obviously, you guys drafted him in the 5th round, only kicker to go in the draft. Did you guys see that as a gamble, or did you know all along that he'd be as good as he is?
Well, I think that you always hope that they're going to do as well as they did, but he's exceeded our expectations. I knew he had a chance to be really good though after watching him and being around him for a period of time. I knew he was going to have a chance to be really good, and then that got confirmed. When we got our hands on him in training camp and really in the off-season workout, and then in training camp, I knew he had a real chance. Because of the COVID, our access to some of these guys has been so limited in the draft preparations that it's hard to get to work with them a whole lot or see him a whole lot or talk to them a whole lot prior to the draft. But coming into it, and he's been everything that we expected him to be, and then some. But his mental makeup is fantastic. It's exactly what you're looking for in that position.
Next up, thank you. Paul Doherty, go ahead.
Hey, Darrin, congratulations.
Thanks, Doc.
I'm wondering, offensive and defensive coordinators obviously have ways to scheme, attack, whatever you want to call it, the people that they're playing. As a special teams coordinator, is there any way to defend against an Evan McPherson or a Justin Tucker?
That's a good question. There really isn't. You can apply pressure to them by certain things you do on field goal block. Sometimes those are successful, sometimes they're not. But that's a good question. But I think a lot of it comes down to their execution and what they're able to do, and if they're able to do it effectively enough. I think some of it's based on situations. What happens offensively and defensively affects the length of field goals. Whether it be short or long. I mean, I'm really glad that Joe Mixon had popped off a couple of those runs and made that field goal a little shorter than what it was the week before. It makes me breathe a little easier. But there's really not a lot other than the field position battle that really has affected offensively and defensively to help those guys execute or not. That's a good question.
Ben Baby, go ahead.
Yeah, Zach, thanks for choosing me for a sec. Darrin, Zach Taylor talked the other day about, when he was working with McVay, he kind of explained things about how to go about doing things as a coach and showed that there's a lot of different ways to be a coach. What's it been like for you as you've seen kind of the model and template on how to be a football coach and handle a lot of people has changed and morphed over the last few decades?
Yeah, it's really changed a lot. obviously having been with Coach Lewis and Zach, they have very different styles. Marvin's probably more of an old school guy. Zach is more new school. So it's been, I say new school, it's been great to be a part of seeing, how you deal with players. It's been different in the fact that, Marvin was more of a head coach. I mean, he really managed the whole team. He didn't really call defenses that much. He had a defensive background. He didn't call a lot of defense except for, there are a couple of spots that he did. But, Zach has to deal with calling offensive plays, trying to manage the in-game situations and trying to manage the whole team. It's unbelievable how he can manage all that and shows his capacity. And it's been really neat to be a part and see all that. But it's unbelievable the way that he deals with the players, the level of confidence that he brings to our guys. I think our guys trust him. Our guys believe in him. And, he's really made great strides, from 2019 to now. It's been really an unbelievable credit to him, how he's really evolved and developed. And I've learned a ton from that too.
Mike Petraglia.
Hey, Darrin, congratulations. Wanted to ask you about Trent Taylor. Something you said a couple of weeks ago, I think, was interesting in that you said the most important play a punt returner can make is handing the ball to the official. How important is it, or what kind of comfort do you take in the fact that Trent Taylor can make the decision in his mind whether or not he should go straight forward or try to make an extra play? And how important is that in a big game?
Oh, anytime a turnover in any of these games now is catastrophic in that area. I think we learned that really from our first San Francisco, when we played San Francisco, how it really negatively affects the game. And I have a great deal of trust. This guy's played a lot of football in this league. I trust him making good decisions. I don't think it's any secret that we may not hit a home run each time we do it, but this guy's got legit skills. He has make miss to him, and I think the same thing holds true with Chris Evans. If you want to, one of the coolest plays that as a coach for you want to watch is, you ought to see Chris Evans' second kickoff return against Tennessee. He rips the kickoff return up through there, and obviously I told him the same thing. Is the most important thing you do is hand the ball to the official into the play. He pops up, and it's a sprint for him to find the official and go. He walks up to the official and hands him the ball, and he taps the official on the shoulder like he was so happy just to hand him the ball. And I took great pride in that, and it is somebody that you're getting through to him, and he understands how important and how critical that is. But no, Trent's a guy that I have a great deal of respect for, a great deal of trust in. Something similar like it was even with Alex Erickson. It is the most important thing that they can do is hand it to the official at the end of a play.
Next question, Charlie Goldsmith.
Darrin, we can rank Evans' kicks in terms of impact and most important, but do you have just a personal favorite kick that Evans made? Maybe it was even one in practice.
He's had a lot of big ones, for us. One of probably the bigger ones that he hit, maybe probably the first game winner that he hit was a big one, although I know it wasn't a long one against Minnesota, but that one was an important one. Even the one that he missed against Green Bay, the game winner that he missed from 49, he thought he made it, but I think he learned so much by that because he dealt with the elation of making a couple game-winning kicks there. I think one against Minnesota, maybe one against Jacksonville, and then he had to learn how to deal with the other side of that. What happens when you miss? That was those are two kicks. The one against Denver at the end of the half was a really big one for just how we handled that situation and how we converted there as a team. I think was huge, and it's amazing how you can flip the momentum of a game in one play. I think you saw that last week with the defensive stop that we had against Kansas City, how everybody kind of felt maybe the momentum of that game kind of flip right there on that play. But, those are three kicks that have been pretty big ones.
Dave Lapham, next question.
Coach, I know you're in the early stages of breaking down the Rams special teams tape, but in your early views, what jumps out at you? Is there anything that is the common thread through the entire season and through the playoffs for the Rams special teams in terms of execution or excellence or anything?
Well, they're obviously they're very well coached. I respect the hell out of the coach they got there, Joe DeCamillis. I've gone against him many times. He's probably the elder statesman in terms of experience in the league when it comes to special teams coaches. He's been doing it for longer than anybody. And they're very multiple in what they do. They do a lot of unorthodox things that are different. They challenge you in a lot of different ways. Right now, they're rolling on punt return. Their punt return game is ripping pretty good. Their kicker had a Pro Bowl season. He's a young guy too, Matt Gay, a kid out of Utah. He's been hitting the ball pretty good. I know he missed one last week, but he's been hitting the ball pretty good. We know we always got to be ready. Johnny Hecker has always been an effective punter, and we always got to be we'll always have to stay on point with all the different gadget plays that they have. And Joe DeCamillis, he believes in those kind of things to keep you on edge. So they're very multiple in what they do. It's a unique set of schemes that he uses that are probably different than really anybody in the NFL. But they're playing very well right now.
Next question, Gary Miller.
Darrin, congrats. It's great that Elkhart is flooding you with the congratulations as well. How important is that pregame when you're out there to test the conditions? What are you looking for? What does that tell you as far as where the game will go? In a stadium you never played in before, like SoFi, where the conditions are more controlled, how much of an advantage will that be for Evan McPherson?
Well, it's going to be big for us to, to get in there. I think we'll get a little bit of time in there. I think maybe on Friday to kind of check out what the stadium's like. I've never obviously been there before, so it'll be unique. It's a little different. Just we get a good feel. Each stadium, even though they're domes, present a certain, a variety of things to look at, adjust for. Pregame warm-up is always a big factor for me. I'll give you a story, though. Again, going back to the Tennessee game, Evan was not very good in pregame warm-up. I think you'll be the first to tell you that he was poor. And, he hit some field goals where he was short from 50 yards, which is very unlike him. And so I had, quite honestly, I did not have a great feel for what his range is in that game. And, at the end of pregame warm-up, again, it didn't go great, but at the end of pregame warm-up, he goes sprinting into the locker room, and I'm asking Kevin, he's like, what the hell did he do? Did he just hurt himself again? Is something wrong with him? He goes, oh, no, he just needs to change his shoes. He'll be fine. He's just going to change his shoes. And I'm like, okay. I don't know why the hell he's not wearing the right shoes in the first place. But anyway, he goes back inside, changes his shoes. We hit our short little field goal there at the end of pregame warm-up, and he looks up and goes, okay, I'm fine. I feel good again. And, there was a time there, I think we had a 54-yard field goal at one point in the fourth quarter. And at the time, I'm thinking, man, that's too far. Based on what I saw in pregame warm-up, that's too far based upon what he hit. And Kevin looked right at me. Kevin looked right at me at that time and says, no, he's good. He's fine. I'm like, all right, field goal, let's do it. And he stroked it. He just annihilated it. So, again, pregame warm-up is big, but I learn after, even though I'm being in this league for 24 years, I learn every game too, that sometimes, pregame doesn't mean as much to this guy as it has to guys in the past. It's kind of the same with practice too. Practice doesn't affect this guy, whether he makes or misses in practice, it affects him nothing. He's so strong. Millie, it's very unique. I've never been a part of anything like it. But, I'm learning from him, even on a daily basis, even after 20 weeks of the season, I learned from him.
Charlotte Wilder.
Thanks, Zach. Hey, Darrin. Speaking of Evan and his confidence, did he say anything to you or anyone on the team before he went out to kick last week? And I know he said, looks like we're going to the AFC Championship. And how much of his confidence do you think is innate or comes from having success in his first year? I'm really interested in his youth having to do with how sure he is of himself.
I think it's a good question. I think that really started way back when he was in Florida. We were fortunate to the Shane Graham, a former kicker of ours, is on staff down there, and he talked to me a lot about what Evan's makeup was and how confident he was without being cocky, and that's an important differentiation to make. That you want these guys to have short-term memory, that if good or bad, that they live to perform in the next kick. Because the most important kick is not the last kick, it's the next kick. Because it is, it could be a PAT in the first quarter that wins the game, or it could be a field goal at the end of a half that wins a game. And, I think it's been, this started way back, his confidence and the way that he deals with things, inherently deals with things, started back when he was at Florida. It's also been very good to have somebody like Kevin and Clark in his corner, talking him through things. They keep it light. We've been through so much. Those two guys have been with me that, they're really coaches to him on the field and even on the sideline during the game. It's all this, it's crazy, all the stuff that they talk about on the sideline. You'd be amazed that how light they keep it. And it's great. It's awesome. And Evan and I just had a little quick conversation just about making sure we had it on the correct hash and he wanted on to kick the game winner. But he said nothing to me. He made no guarantees to me, and I'm glad he didn't. I just got to tell him to make the damn kick.
Everyone, again, I apologize. We only have time for one more question for those of you that have your hand raised. We're going to go to the last question now, and it's Ben Baby. Go ahead, Ben.
Thanks again, Zach. Really appreciate you. Darrin, you talked about, what you learned kind of about Zach and kind of maybe this new age of coaching. What's something a guy like you who's been in the business for a good amount kind of learned about, maybe that's something new and something that is effective, especially, in today's current age and the way players are now?
Well, I think you just have to learn how to evolve with the way that players deal with things now. You know, with the advent of, you know, when I got started in this deal, there was no social media, there was no Twitter, there was no, you know, there was none of this stuff. This forms of communication, and that's all that these players deal with now is how to communicate. They communicate electronically, and you know, I haven't been used to doing that. And you know, probably the younger generation of coaches. Not that I consider myself an old guy, but I'm getting in the middle range of that, I would think. You know, just learning to be sensitive to all those different things that are out there. I've just been football. But just know that learn that these guys deal with a lot of external pressures, a lot of external forces, and when it comes to things like social media and how they have to deal with that and being sensitive to that, I think is one big thing that I've learned from Zach and how they deal with that.
Darrin, that's all the time we have. We appreciate it. Good luck in the Super Bowl.
You bet. Thank you guys. Appreciate you having me.